This is a MacBook Pro Mid 2007 with a beautiful aluminum case and great old-school design. But unfortunately, this MacBook is not in a functional condition. Hey, what's up everyone? I'm Andrew, and in this video we're gonna give another life on this laptop.
Nothing belongs to you in life. Oh, the picture of you cuts like a knife. Whatever they call us, whatever they'll do, they're running in circles, circle of fools. Whatever we will miss, got nothing to prove. But in the dark I'm starting to. Whatever they call us, whatever they'll do, we're running together, I'll be here for you. Whatever we will miss, we'll find something new. But in the dark I'm starting to. I'm missing what's you.
Well, this is a 15-inch MacBook Pro Mid 2007. This model has a Core 2 Duo CPU running at 2.2 GHz. The GPU is NVIDIA GT 8600M with 128 MB of GDDR3 video memory, and the RAM is 2 GB DDR2. But unfortunately, this MacBook is not working. Also, I got this MacBook in a virtual Cosmetic condition, without battery and without charger, with 2 GB of RAM only and without hard disk. The first what I noticed on this laptop is some color over the case. It's looking like that something is splitted over the laptop. And the second thing are the screws. Some of them are missing, and the other, most of them are not from this MacBook or any other Apple computer. Actually, this assuming that probably this laptop is opened and repaired before. Before I continue with something, first I connect my MacBook Pro 2012 charger and I've tried to start this MacBook. But this MacBook won't start. Just the LED indicator is flashing. At the first, I think that this could be the RAM, but actually is not. I've tried a few different RAMs, but again, this MacBook won't start. The only thing that gives me a hope is the flashing LED indicator. Actually, this LED indicator shows that the logic board is still alive, but something is preventing to start up. Well, let's start and give a second life on this MacBook. First, I will start with disassembling, because I need access from the inside to check the logic board and the other components. After I removed the top case with the keyboard, I didn't see any signs of liquid damage as I expected, but the logic board on the middle is looking pretty strange, and there is a small signs of flux. Okay, now let's remove the logic board and check it from the other side. Well, this is it, and I think I found from where the problem is coming. There is a lot of flux around the GPU, which means the GPU is repaired previously, And the flux also surrounds some other components, most in the middle of the logic board. In this case, I can't do really much, because I don't have the equipment that I need. But I asked one friend that has some equipment to help me about checking the logic board and fixing this problem. But before I do something, first I will clean the logic board from the old thermal paste and the flux that is over the GPU. I done this because I need a better view and access to these components. Well, this is it, and now let's move on the logic board. I'm gonna be a little bit short here, because this is a little bit longer process, and checking and repairing the logic board takes over a half day. So first we started with the basic checks, like checking is there some short circuit or is there some other issue with other components. Then we check the GPU chip and the logic board signals. After making all checks, we saw that the GPU chip is still alive, I mean theoretically. And probably the problem is coming from soldering. I mean, probably the GPU is heavy overheated before. But there is another problem. We don't have the reballing stencil template for the GPU. And now the only way to fix the GPU is to reflow the GPU chip. Reflowing is heating the GPU chip only, without removing the chip or anything else. This is not the best way to fix something like this, but now, in this case, it's only available solution. So, to heat the GPU, we used infrared machine. I mean, not a classic hot air, and we heat the GPU chip on a little bit lower temperature. We go with 200 to 210 Celsius. And after the reflow, we slowly cool down the logic board to not cause some thermal stress. Now, I'm on the logic board in the case and have tried to start up this MacBook, but the MacBook still won't start. So after this, I checked the logic board again and I found two more failing components, but nothing seriously. I changed it, and after that, the MacBook finally started working. Now I cross over all tests again to be sure that all is good, and finally all is working well. The temperatures are good and all other is fine. It was a little bit hard, but not impossible. Well, now let's return back and continue with other things. Now, first, I will clean the logic board from the flux over the GPU and from the other tiny dirt around the USB ports and the other ports. The logic board is looking good again, and now let's clean the cooling pipe and the cooling fans. Well, this is it. Now let's clean the top panel with a keyboard and the MacBook case from the inside. Okay, now after I clean the keyboard and the case from the inside, it's time to place the thermal paste over the chips and mount the cooling. Well, this is it. Now let's place the motherboard in the case and assemble this MacBook Pro. Now, before I place the upper case with a keyboard, I will install a new disk. Instead using a standard hard disk, I will install a 240 gigs SSD. But the only problem here is, the hard disk holder is missing, and to mount and fix the disk to the case, I had to use a plastic disk frame and hard foam. Actually, this is a temporary solution until I find hard disk holder for this MacBook. Also, instead of CD-ROM, I want to mount an additional 500 gigs hard disk, but in this case is not possible, because this MacBook has a different connector. I mean, this is not a SATA CD-ROM, and the hard disk caddy that I got is SATA. However, in this case, I can use this 500 gigs hard disk as external disk. Well, now let's turn on this MacBook from the other side and install the RAM. The RAM that I got with this MacBook is 2 gigs and still working. So I will use it again and I will add another 2 gigs. So in total, this MacBook will have 4 gigs of RAM. Well, everything is done here, and now let's move on the display. To clean the display, I will use a 96% alcohol, few very soft cleaning cloths and soft brush. If you're going to clean some display, you need to be very careful. Especially be careful with the display edges. Never put any kind of liquid over the edges, because the display on the edges is very sensitive, and if the liquid goes there, then you may damage the entire display. Well, that's it. The display is shining again, and now let's move on the last part about cleaning, and that is the top side. On the top side, except the color and the dirt, there is 2 stickers. Because I'm going to back this MacBook in original condition, I will need to remove everything. At first, removing the stickers looks easy, but actually this process takes more time. I need to be very careful to not cause some damage or scratch the case. Well, this is it, and all shine again like new. But there is one more thing that is missing. I mean on the battery. It's pretty hard to find some good parts for these older models nowadays. But after some time of searching, I found a few offers, and the most affordable offer is under $30. Brand new battery. Actually, I'm not really sure how good it is, but I ordered one, and I hope it will work. Now let's move on the operating system. Because I don't have any installation disk, I need to install the macOS over USB. As operating system, I will use the macOS El Capitan 10.11.6. Also, this is the maximum supported version on this MacBook. Probably you will ask, why I didn't go with some newer version? Well, these models doesn't support newer versions, because these models have a CPU with Mirom architecture. I mean, these CPUs don't have some features that need to support newer operating system, but some older models with Penguin architecture are supporting newer macOS versions, including the latest. Well, this is it. The MacBook Pro 2007 fully functional again. And I'm really glad because I backed this laptop in function again. It was a little bit hard, but it's not impossible. This MacBook Pro is not really powerful to run some latest apps, but is good enough for basic things, like web browsing, watching some videos, working with documents, and listening music. And all these basic things are working pretty fast and pretty well, without lags or some long loading. Also, on this MacBook, I install an additional fan control software. With this software, I can change the cooling fan rotation speed and set to Ygor. So with this, I will keep the GPU and the CPU cooler, and I will avoid some overheating in the future. And few more words about this MacBook. This MacBook Pro, it still has a beautiful design. The entire case is made from aluminum, the keyboard is with backlight and it's looking pretty beautiful. So typing at a low light or in a dark, it won't be a problem. Well, this is all about this 2007 MacBook Pro. I hope you enjoyed watching this video, and I hope this video will give inspiration and ideas to back some old stuff in function again. Thanks for watching and see you in the next one.